Today, we're going to talk about one of the greatest minds in history, the 18th century mathematician Leonhard Euler. His story is one of absolutely breathtaking genius, but it's also got this crazy central puzzle right at its heart.
And this is it. This is the paradox that just blows my mind. How on earth did Leonhard Euler's most productive, most creative period begin after he lost his sight completely? It's a story that really makes you question what the human mind is capable of.
To give you an idea of what we're talking about, just look at this number, 1. In the year 1775, while he was totally blind, Euler was averaging one new mathematical paper every single week. All of it worked out from start to finish entirely in his head. So, how? Well, to understand that, you first have to understand the sheer scale of the man himself.
Yeah, before we can even get to the whole blindness part, we have to establish just who we're dealing with. Euler wasn't just a mathematician. You could almost call him the architect of modern mathematics. He built the very foundations we still use today.
I mean, the numbers are just nuts. Over 850 papers, 25 massive books. He is, without a doubt, the most prolific mathematician who ever lived. But it wasn't just about quantity. His goal was basically to master and then push forward every single branch of science that existed in his time. To put his output in perspective, a project to collect all his works, the Opera Omnia, was started back in 1911, and it's still not finished today.
Okay, so maybe his biggest legacy, the thing you use without even knowing it, is the actual language of modern math. He gave us the symbols, the grammar, that allowed for a whole new era of discovery.
It all started with this game-changing idea. You see, before Euler, a function was often tied to something you could physically draw, like a curve on a graph. By introducing f of x, he defined it as an abstract rule. This was a huge leap. It basically unshackled calculus from geometry and turned it into this powerful universal tool for analysis.
Then, you've got the constants we all know and love. He took the letter e and made it the standard symbol for the base of the natural logarithm. It's a number that pops up everywhere, from finance to physics, and he's the one who put it right at the center of the mathematical toolkit.
And yep, same story with pi. Now, he didn't actually invent the symbol, but he used it so consistently and in such important work that he's the reason it became the universal standard. Every time you use pi, you're following the standard he set.
And this one is a biggie. He invented the symbol I to represent the square root of -1. This single letter unlocked the entire world of complex numbers, which, believe me, is the bedrock for so much of our modern technology, from electrical grids to quantum mechanics. And all of this, all those symbols, come together in this one perfect equation. This is Euler's identity. It's often called the most beautiful equation in all of math, and for good reason. In one short, elegant statement, it connects the 5 most important numbers in mathematics: 1, 0, pi, e, and I. It reveals this deep, almost magical connection between completely different parts of the mathematical world. So now that he has this incredible new toolkit, this powerful new language, what does he do? He goes hunting for giants. He starts tackling some of the most famous and notoriously difficult problems of his day, and he even invents whole new branches of math just to solve them.
What's just mind-blowing about Euler is his range. I mean, on one hand, he could wrestle with the concept of infinity itself, solving the famous Basel problem, which involved adding up an infinite number of fractions. And then, on the completely other end of the spectrum, he could solve a fun little real-world brain teaser about some bridges in a city.
So here's the deal with the Königsberg Bridge problem. The puzzle was simple. Could you take a walk through this city and cross every single one of its 7 bridges, but only cross each one once? Euler's brilliant move was to realize that the shape of the city, the lengths of the bridges, none of that mattered. It was all about the connections. He stripped it down to just dots and lines, and in proving it was impossible, he accidentally invented an entire field of math we now call graph theory. Just incredible.
Okay, so we've seen the mathematical titan, but behind all the equations, there was a man, and his life was anything but easy. We're talking political chaos, personal hardship, and just unbelievable resilience.
His career was a whirlwind tour of 18th century Europe's biggest power centers, from Russia to Prussia and back again. But while his reputation was soaring, his body was starting to fail him. Around 1738, he worked so hard on a mapping project that he lost the sight in his right eye. Then, decades later, a botched cataract surgery left him almost completely blind.
And, it wasn't just physical pain. He had to deal with social humiliation, too. Even though he was personally recruited by Frederick the Great of Prussia, the king thought he was, well, a bit of a country bumpkin compared to the fancy philosophers at his court. He even gave him this cruel nickname, Cyclops, after he lost his first eye. Just imagine the sting of that.
All right, so this is where it all comes together. How does this man, facing insults from a king and living in near total darkness, go on to produce the greatest work of his life? How did his mind's eye completely take over?
Well, here's how he did it. First off, the man had a memory that was just off the charts, legendary. His ability for mental calculation was already superhuman. But the real secret weapon? It was that stable, logical framework he'd spent his whole life building. All those symbols, f of x, pi times e times I, they weren't just marks on a page for him. They were the very architecture of his thoughts. So when his eyesight went, all the noise of the outside world just disappeared. He was left alone, in total focus, to explore this perfect, logical universe he had built inside his own head.
And the work he produced then? It is staggering. I mean, look at this. These aren't just papers. These are the founding documents for entire fields of mathematics. He didn't just solve problems, he wrote the textbooks that defined entire disciplines, like calculus, for generations. And the most incredible part is that he composed so much of this, including entire books, after he went blind, dictating it all from pure memory.
Maybe the best way to understand his impact is to hear what other giants of math had to say. Pierre-Simon Laplace, no slouch himself, had this simple piece of advice for any young mathematician. Read Euler. Read Euler. He is the master of us all. He wasn't just a genius, he was the teacher for everyone who came after him.
So in the end, Euler's story just flips everything on its head. What seemed like his greatest tragedy, his blindness, might have actually been the key that unlocked his ultimate potential. And it leaves you wondering, right? It makes you ask, what is a human mind truly capable of when it's completely free from distraction? What could any of us achieve if we were forced to see only what truly matters?